You there, you watching this video, you probably make your life a lot fucking harder than it has to be. And what I mean by this is you let the things you see in your life get to you way too easily. And I'm not exempt from this either, and my younger self was definitely not exempt from this. Me personally, I find myself to be very easily influenced, and so that's just something I had to naturally work around, and only now that I really get to solve this issue that I've had for a very long time. And that's the main reason I wanted to share what I wanted to share in this video. I didn't want other people to suffer like me, and I'll tell you a little story real quickly. So about a year ago, I was about 6 months into self-improvement, but at that time, I was really into going to the gym. I loved working out, I wanted to get jacked, and that was my number one biggest priority. And so naturally, I watched a lot of fitness content. I wanted to know how to build muscle optimally. I wanted to know all the best exercises, the best way to do this, do that, to maximize my efficiency in terms of building a pretty damn good physique. But along with that, I saw a lot of the big jack guys in the fitness community, guys like C-Bone, and I compare myself to people like that. When people say comparison is the thief of joy, I really felt that. And it led me to where I am now with pretty bad body dysmorphia, I think. Because other people will say that I have a pretty good physique, but when I look at myself in the mirror, I see myself as a fat and skinny person. I'm skinny fat, okay? I see myself as skinny fat, and I think that's kind of saying something when people at my school will literally talk to me and say, you have one of the best physiques in the school. And I don't believe any of that, because it might also be just an internal thing that I'm too humble or whatever. Like, I'm not trying to gas myself up or anything, but I just can't see it personally. And it all just started with that first instance of seeing really big jack guys on the internet. And another example that was very recently was, I was on Instagram and I was scrolling. I'm a little ashamed to admit this, but I was, okay? I was on Reels, but the important thing was I came across a few Reels that was talking about mental health. It showed some guys that were divorced. They were at like the lowest point of their lives. And what I felt in that moment was I felt so fucking depressed seeing those things. I let that idea of mental health get to me way too easily, and my mind almost convinced myself that we are depressed. And that turned into reality for a little bit. I was at a very low point in my life where I could go from a pretty good mood, but as soon as I just sit in my room for 10 seconds even, alone, I would go into a really fucking depressed mood where I didn't even know what to think. But the culmination of all this is just the way I perceived these things I saw on the internet. And it's the internet mainly, but they can also happen in real life. If you see some super successful person that's really close to you, you might compare yourself to them, and the same thing can happen to me with body dysmorphia. So to put it in a different perspective, think of it like this. Imagine you got a cup of water and it's really dirty, it's really murky. You can't drink that shit and you can't see through it either. But if you filter that water once, it's gonna be a little more clear, but it's still gonna be dirty and murky regardless. But the second time, a little bit more clear. Third time, even more. Fourth time, a little bit more. And fifth time, maybe it's finally clear and it's maybe drinkable. It's the same thing with the things that we see in our day-to-day lives, the things that we consume. When the information initially comes to us, that information is very muddy. It's unclear. We can't make a good decision out of it unless we investigate a little bit further. That's what I want you guys to start doing. I want you to start writing down thoughts and information that you find a little bit troubling, that you found to be somewhat important. It's not easy to identify things, I'll say that, because some of these things can go very under the radar. You won't be able to tell them very easily. And all of this just takes a lot of practice and skill to be able to identify the things that affect you the most. But a really good way to start is to identify the things that you believe. Identify the things that will change your identity. Identify those thoughts and write them down. And I want you to think about those things for a good 2 to 3 minutes for multiple times a day. So this basically acts as the filter I mentioned in the water analogy. If you constantly filter that information, you're gonna be able to make a lot better judgment and assumption on that information. If it's good or bad, if it's something you should believe, or if it's something you shouldn't believe, if it's something you should make your identity, if it's something you shouldn't make your identity. or it's something you should work towards, or if it's something you shouldn't work towards. It's like a yes or no thing. And all of this is really just to build your ability to critically think. Schools will really push this, and I agree with, I can't even speak, like upgrading your ability to critically think, because that skill is always going to be useful. It's going to let you make much better decisions in your life, and it's going to be able to let you think on the moment and just be smarter overall. And one last thing I want to add before I get into the outro of this video is just to keep an open mind towards your identity and your beliefs, okay? Let them be open to change if there's enough reason. And this comes from a very stubborn person. My friends and family know this best, but I'm a very fucking stubborn person. If I want something, I'm not gonna let up on that thing. So take it from a stubborn person and don't be stubborn. Because if you're stubborn and you're stuck on something that maybe negatively influence you, that negative influence can compound very quickly into other things. And so give up the bad things, but keep the good things. That's the point of this little segment. But besides that, that's gonna be about it for this video. So to end it off with a quote, it comes from a really old Greek philosopher called Marcus Aurelius, and it goes like this: don't be harmed and you won't feel harmed. Don't feel harmed and you haven't been. Everything just comes down to the way you perceive things. If you perceive things in a negative way, you're gonna live a miserable life. But even if you live the worst life in other people's eyes, but you only see the positives in these things, you're gonna live the best life ever. You're gonna be fucking happy every single day. And that's why I wanted to incorporate like this little activity thing. People will constantly say, oh, be positive, see the positive things. But that's not the easiest thing ever to do, just going around in our day-to-day lives. There's 1,000 things we see every day. So it's a little overwhelming if you try and look at the positive in every single little thing. So much rather focus on the important things and try and seek the positive out of those. Seek the positive out of the most negative things. Try and find some polarity in the things that happen in your life. And I think that'll make you a lot happier and you'll live a much better life overall. So yeah, that's gonna be it. So keep on doing the shit that needs to be done and stay positive, stay smart, and think straight, all right? Besides that, that's it. Give me a kiss. Mwah.